Right? Somebody else to second. Willie. Good.
If I'm allowed to.
So that was Lindsay proposed, Lindsay Weir proposed, and Willie second. Well, you're a board member, are you not?
Yes, but I don't know what the role. I think everybody's equal on it. I don't think. Is that okay, Matt? Councillors?
That's absolutely fine. Councillor Gold, you're perfectly entitled to propose or second, no problem at all.
We're all equal until the police come. Right. Next item is community matters. Input from the local community groups. And we kick off with Lisa. I ask everybody to be brief on this, please, because we have a big agenda. Lisa, bikes.
Bikes, yes. It was raised at a community council meeting in Cumbernauld Village. If we could possibly investigate these hire bikes, the schemes that you get in the bigger cities. I've spoken to Phil from WeCycle, and he suggested that it's a huge project and it does need a lot of work, and it does need support from NLC. So it was to raise it at this meeting to see if we felt it was something worth pursuing.
Okay. Do we feel it's something that we should ask the officers to pursue? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be, and it was interesting. The restorative justice and whatever have schemes where they can put bikes back together and that, and it would be useful as well to get involved in that kind of thing. But certainly, I think it would be useful.
Chair, can I also come in? Raymond Taylor. I'm actually working for North Lanarkshire Council, but I live in Cumbernauld, so I think it's an excellent idea. And I do think there are some other towns in North Lanarkshire where they're starting to invest in this scheme. The only thing we need is bikes with low gears, given the terrain of Cumbernauld. So, but a great idea.
There's strong people to ride them.
Oh.
Okay, that's agreed then, folks. Matt, how do we process that?
We'll just get more information through our team, Chair, and from the proposer there, and we'll link in with the appropriate council service, and we'll feed back to the board.
Thank you. Again, Lisa Snedden's gone on the bin rollout. Can we hear from you?
Thank you, Chair. We were just looking for an update on the community consultation element of the bin rollout. We were it was mentioned before that there was going to be consultation, and we're looking for an update on that.
Hi, Chair. I passed on the inquiry to the relevant council service, and the feedback that we've got at this time is that there isn't any new updates or data that's available for sharing. But as soon as more information becomes available, we'll certainly get that out to folk.
One thing that should be noted is that large dog poo bins are not a success because they're not being emptied frequently. They're on a 4-week program, so the bins after 2 weeks are overflowing. Willie Goldie?
It's just to see if they gave you any indication, Gary, when it's likely to feed back, because it was some considerable time back that I moved the motion at the council to ask them to carry this out, just to see whether there's any kind of time scale.
No other details, Councillor Goldie. I will go back to John Ashcroft and ask the question again, though, see if there's any developments since he fed back last week.
Adam Smith?
Yeah, thanks. And similar to Willie's point there, I mean, this was last year that Environment and Transportation Committee updated that there was going to be a consultation on the removal of the bins in this public waste bin strategy that the council's come up with. And I've contacted the convener as well, but we don't seem to be any further forward on this. And obviously, bins have been removed. It's causing a considerable number of issues locally. So if we could push for a response on that, that would be welcome.
Okay. Anything else on the bin rollout? No. Suzanne McLeod on the CCTV installations.
Yeah, it's just to get an update on that, Matt, if that's possible, please.
My colleague Colin, I think Bruce is going to give an update on that, Suzanne.
Colin?
You're on mute, Colin.
Sorry, apologies. So yeah, I'll I asked our colleagues at CCTV just yesterday actually for a real up-to-date update. So I'm just getting this information. So I can confirm for first of all Cumbernauld Community Park that my colleagues at CCTV have looked at this, and so it shouldn't be too long. So they're estimating 6 to 8 weeks. There is a bit of work needs to be done in regarding to that, and they're going to ask our colleagues at Street Lighting today and how they are how long the works will take. So within 6 to 8 weeks, there should be something in place at Cumbernauld Community Park in relation to the CCTV, so that's good. And the other ones for Carbrain Gully and for Ravenswood, again, my colleagues at CCTV will be out at the site this week to firm up if they can get the link back to our own NLC network, or if a 4G solution is most appropriate. So they'll come back to me with that information, and if we have anything, you know, in the next few weeks, we'll obviously let you know, because I know everybody's really keen to see that. And Suzanne, obviously your question, you're quite right. If there's anything, I'll make sure that you get the appropriate information.
Any other contributions? The new smoke alarm regulations.
Alec,
John,
there's a couple of hands up. There's mine and Adam was up first, I think.
Right, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for that update, Colin. At the last meeting, there was a couple of additional locations mentioned. I know that I had mentioned Cumbernauld House Park as well, because we've had quite a bit of antisocial behaviour there over the years. And Matt, I think you took a note of that, so I don't know if you've got any update in those locations as well.
I think what I would say at this point is that the ones that you have advised us of, Adam, absolutely, we are fully aware of them. But again, it will just come down to kind of timings and funding kind of pressures. But we are looking at that, and we have got them noted for once we get the one for Cumbernauld Community Park done. So they are in line, and we're very aware of them, Adam. I think Councillor Goldie maybe had a...
Willie, you want to come in, Councillor Goldie?
Just to say, sorry, Alec, thanks, cheers. Just a question on the Carbrain one. I've had one or two reports about kind of incidents of use gathering within the play area beside the gully. Would the CCTV cover that area, or is it purely lower down, or?
I can honestly say I can't answer that question, but
That's
I
fine.
promise you I will get that answer.
No bother, cool. Cheers.
No bother,
Thank
thank you.
Okay.
I think
Suzanne, you want to come in on this?
I think John King's ahead of me, actually, Chair.
Well, John King's coming in on smoke alarms, isn't he?
Or,
So
I
we're
don't
still
know.
talking about CCTV.
I've got no idea what John's wanting to speak about, but all I wanted to say was thanks very much to the officers. I think this is significant progress, and I really hope that the momentum carries on, because as Adam's just suggested there, I think, you know, these were the starting points, but there are many other areas within the town that I think would benefit from a rollout of a CCTV programme. And I wonder if it's something that we should be looking at rather than as individual pieces of work. Maybe as a town board we should be thinking about, you know, a programme and a rolled out programme, so that we can be covering, you know, all of the areas that we think need to be sort of addressed. But I can leave that with you for further discussion.
I think Chair, I think Matt might want to come in around that aspect, if that's okay.
Matt?
Come in just briefly, Chair, just on the point that Suzanne's raising there in relation to that. What we can do is, as we've done in previous areas as well, we can get a kind of survey undertaken through our colleagues in the team that's responsible for the CCTV, just to see what our coverage is at the moment and where there are any areas that would require investment, so that it is done on a basis that complements the system that's already in place. So we'll make sure that's done and we can report that back to a future board chair.
Okay, so we're going to reassess the area, are we? Yes?
Can I come in here, Ali?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John?
It's regarding the alarms. We, the forum, are really concerned with senior citizens, the cost it's going to cost. Billy stays in a wee pensioner's house and he's checked it. It would cost him £230 to get his done. Now, how can a senior citizen cover that cost?
Any input anywhere? Question to Matt, what council assistance can we get?
We need to check what support's available. I know there was some, I don't know if our colleagues in Fire and Rescue may be able to give a better response to that in terms of the work that's already in place in relation to the care and repair scheme that was available, but I'm not 100% sure, Chair, and it would be remiss to make any further comment. I might ask my colleague from Fire and Rescue to pick up on that.
I actually checked with Fire and Rescue and got nowhere.
Well, the thing is that I was reading in preparation for tonight's meeting, I was reading the Fire and Rescue report, and it details the assistance that they are available to give at this moment. Chris Burns from Fire and Rescue, would you like to come in?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, we will fit them to our most vulnerable groups within the area, but we only got funding from the Scottish Government for a set amount, so we have been fitting them and we were inundated with requests, and what we had done is we had a set criteria for people that we would fit them. It had to be their own home and it had to be kind of very high risk, so we've been putting that process in place and fitting them to the most vulnerable within the area. Unfortunately, we have run out at the moment, and we're looking to get more stock, but just because this has happened across the country, we're struggling to get the stock in just now, so we will go back to fitting them again to the most vulnerable, but at the moment we have no smoke alarms at the moment.
Is there a clear criteria for the fitting of them?
It's a set criteria that we have. We'll run through a checklist with the people that call us, and they can also go online to our website and do the checklist themselves, and that will tell them if they meet the criteria there, and that will put them onto our system, and then we'll contact them and put the smoke alarms back in. We are still fitting smoke alarms. If we go out to people's houses, we will still fit normal, but not the interlinked smoke alarms, just so that they have got detection. We wouldn't leave anybody without a smoke alarm, but at the moment we're not able to bring anybody up to the current standard.
John, does that answer your point?
Yes, it was actually the Cumbernauld branch I got in touch with. I say I didn't get anywhere. They did offer to come out and view my house, but at least I could do my own. It was more likely the rest of senior citizens were concerned about it.
Yeah, so not.
Chris, you represent the Cumbernauld area, don't you?
Cumbernauld Community Forum and the North Area Crime Prevention.
Yeah, but Chris Burns from the Fire and Rescue, you represent this area?
Yes, I'm Cumbernauld and Kilsyth Fire Station. I'm the station commander for there. And what we've been getting is people will phone up and they will run through the questions with them. Unfortunately, if they don't meet the criteria, because we were only given the funding for a certain amount, we can only fit them if they meet the high criteria that's been set. We have had.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else like to comment or have anything to say on this matter? Nope. Again, John, you're going to speak on the cost of living pressure?
Myself? No, but the only things Billy's asked me to, we've been carrying out bike markings around all the schools, and we're starting up again just shortly. The next one we're going to do is St Maurice's. We purchased 5 defibrillators and we've handed them out around the community. That's more or less it.
Okay. What about the cost of living pressure?
Oh, Billy mentioned something about that. Oh, I can't remember what he said.
I think this is something that the LIPE group subgroup would look at.
Well, if they could, aye.
Well, once that gets set up, it will start looking at the issues of poverty and financial exclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments on that one? Councillor Goldie?
It's really on the defibrillator, but it's to ask John, what's the criteria for the defibrillators? Do they need to be put in a public location and secured or whatever? Because I know that some groups have expressed interest in it, but I'm not quite sure what the criteria would be for having one, or
Yep.
where they should be placed.
Well, where we've placed them at the moment is the Freedom City Church, the Cornerstone Church, in Cumbernauld, the taxi office. The reason we picked that because it's open 24 hours a day. Where else now? Oh, I can't remember where the rest went. But there's no really any criteria. We were trying to think the best places to locate them. We haven't really set out a criteria.
That's fine, John. It's just I might actually have a couple of groups who are interested, so
Yeah.
I'll maybe speak to you about it if I can.
Certainly, yes.
Line somewhere.
Okay.
Yep.
Gary Stark?
Hi, Chair. Just to add in some additional information, I had an email from Billy today confirming that the other 2 places are the Police Scotland office at Cumbernauld and Cumbernauld Poverty Action at Muirfield Community Centre. So 5 in total. So that's them being listed now. In terms of the last agenda item, just to go back to it for a moment, Billy spoke to me about the cost of living increases, and he was just very keen to highlight the pressure that this is having on lots of people across our communities, particularly vulnerable adults. And he would be very keen for consideration for the community board or the LIPE subgroups, as you've mentioned, to take action and consider options to address that. So we would be very keen to cover that in the LIPE subgroups going forward.
Okay. And we would want the LIPE subgroups, the ones that are not established, to be established as quickly as possible.
Yes, Chair, you were obviously a part of the last meeting, and that's on the agenda, and I will give an update on that shortly.
Okay. Right, General Community Board business and updates. Gerald McLaughlin, the community champion.
Good evening, everyone, and apologies for being late on this evening. A number, I suppose, of updates, and I suppose it relates to an earlier discussion about anti-social behaviour, and it's maybe just to show a wee bit of the joined up working and how this will how I see my role based on the information that's passed to myself. So there was an initial email sent to me around concerns from various businesses in the town centre area. And I know an email had been sent to, and I don't know if Susan is on, Susan Ray from Police Scotland, who sent back a very detailed response. In addition to that, I was able to link in with the CCTV team, who said that they would address those particular areas that have been identified. In addition, I was able to speak to the education managers within those areas to get messages to the head teachers, so that at these virtual assemblies or small assemblies that are going on in the schools, that we can obviously highlight the issue, and obviously to say about the impact that the young people are having down at the town centre. So I suppose it's just to give a wee bit of reassurance. The emails do come in. Those are straightforward. I would say the ones that are a wee bit harder are when I get emails in about the flooding at Jubilee Park, for example. That one stumps me, I have to say, because I think it's been It has been a long-term issue and probably exacerbated by the continual bad weather that we've had recently. However, I will go back to the organisation just to say about I will try and do something about that. From COVID, obviously you've heard the sort of recent announcements by the First Minister, and obviously from a schools perspective, there's a bit of normality starting to look as if it's coming back into schools. However, I would have to say that even tonight, meeting with the trade unions about CO2 monitors, there's still a lot of nervousness around, but there will be, because of the money that's now been given by Scottish Government, CO2 monitors in every school and learning area. That's so would be for our mainstream schools and also early years, and also our partners in third sector where appropriate. So those sort of things are going on, but I suppose the good news is that from a parent and carers point of view, and from a community perspective, there will be more engagement. I think it'll be welcomed by parents, carers, and I suppose the wider community. Today was, and I think I have to say, I know I mentioned about the Cumbernauld Village Family Learning Centre, but it officially opened today. It was great to be there and be part of it. What the team have done there, they've gone above and beyond. I know there was a lot of concerns at the time about that particular building going up in that particular area, conservation area. However, I think people, anyone that goes to it, will certainly be reassured. And I know the Cumbernauld Community Council have visited it, and maybe moving forward, there might be an invite for those on the call who'd be interested to go and see what one of our new early years facilities looks like. We can certainly organise that as the mitigations certainly reduce. The other thing that I was at, which I think it's important from a community perspective to mention, is about the Cumbernauld Theatre that officially opened as well. What an amazing resource that is. My first introduction to the Cumbernauld Theatre was, it was used as a hub when we had the lockdowns. That was for the key worker children, etc. But now it has been turned into a facility that will be wonderful for the community of Cumbernauld. And I suppose just the last thing, I mentioned this at the committee, and it's just one example of the sort of work that goes on, but Cildrum Family Learning Centre has just received, it was Community Learning Development Award for the Intergenerational Forget-Me-Not Gardening Group project. It's just one example of the types of things that are happening in our family learning centres, and about the outreach work that goes out to families within the Cumbernauld area. It's just one example of something really, really good. There have been other sort of emails that have come to me. Some of the things I'm able to look at, like the ones it's dead easy. Others, when it becomes to flooding, that's a new one for me, and obviously I'll be passing this on to my colleagues to see, but some of these things are not as straightforward. So that's just sorry, Chair, for hogging it for a wee while, but I think there's quite a few bits of the update there that are quite useful. Some good news stories as well. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Goldie.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Susan and Gerard for the work carried out in the antisocial behaviour at the town centre. It was quite intimidating for a lot of the businesses, and just as an aside, one of the businesses today has actually contacted me thanking for the work carried out by the police, and the police dropping in. It seems to have reduced it considerably. So just thanks for that, and I joined up working, particularly looking at antisocial task force and maybe where the parents of the families are staying, and it was something that I also brought up at the sanctuary area committee meeting as well, in case any of them turn out that they're sanctuary tenants. It's just to make you additionally aware. Spoke to some North Lanarkshire Council staff at the link, and it seems to be targeting them. It's the same group of kids that are doing it. They're still being followed and intimidated, but it's ongoing, so I'm glad that we're looking at it, and just to pass on my thanks for the work that's been carried out so far.
Thank you, Councillor, that's appreciated.
Adam, did I see your hand coming up and going down?
Yeah, sorry, I thought my hand was still raised. Yeah, thanks for that update. I think when it comes to drainage, some of us in the call could come to you with a shopping list of issues in the town. And I know that Councillor Barclay's been working on issues in Abram Hill, and there's been problems with underpasses flooding in Cumbernauld and Cumbernauld as well. But I think it links back to a point I've made previously just about infrastructure in some of the older areas of the new town. And we do have a number of underpasses that frequently flood or certainly present a hazard. And I've had to raise concerns over the runoff from the Burns Road development and the underpass between Bolton Road and Burns Road. We just wanted to highlight here that we do have a number of issues in the town with, you know, drainage and making sure that our kind of footpaths are in good condition. Thanks.
Okay. Town visions and town action plan. Now, we have a change in presenter there, Gary, haven't we?
Yes, Chair. Craig McIntyre's going to present now.
Craig, welcome.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just trying to start my camera. Sorry, Chair, I'm just trying to start my camera. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to the Community Board tonight. I'm the project manager for the Town Visions project for all 8 towns within North Lanarkshire. So obviously Cumbernauld, our largest town, is one of the key towns which we're looking to basically try and put as much resources and energy behind translating the conceptual proposals that were in the Town Vision document into site-specific physical works. Just to remind people, the key sort of structural transformational changes that were promoted in the vision for Cumbernauld, which was approved by the council back in late September, early October last year, was basically to restructure the town centre, to improve access and connections to public transport and active travel, to improve quality of life, health and well-being, and urban livability within the town centre, to deliver new affordable homes within and close to the town centre, and to strengthen the green links, public realm and civic space. So these are the big ideas that we are looking to promote over the next 5 to 10 years. Now is a good time for us to be looking at how we remodel and improve our towns, because UK government, Scottish government have all identified town centres as the sort of lifebloods of community, while accepting that there's some significant structural changes that are happening. We no longer shop the way we shop. The growth of technology, the ability to basically shop from your pocket, so to speak, is having a significant impact on the level of retail closures. And basically, rather than allow vacancy and dereliction to accelerate, what we're doing across all 8 towns within North Lanarkshire, but particularly in Cumbernauld, is speaking to the owners of the town centres to basically try and build partnerships with them to basically repurpose the town centres towards a more mixed use outcome. The days of town centres being primarily focused on retail provision have basically been on the wane ever since out of town shopping was promoted way back in the 80s. So we recognise something needs to be done. We're not going to shy away from looking at some big transformational changes. We don't own the assets of the town centre other than the public realm that moves through and around the town centre. Therefore, any changes that we do promote are going to have to be through partnership. And that's not just by necessity, it's also a good thing. And when we say partnership, we mean partnership with the private landowners, but also partnerships with the communities to basically co-produce what we are going to term town action plans, to translate the high level visions into physical projects that can be delivered within a set time frame of a sort of short, medium and long term. So for example, We're already doing projects in terms of linking communities like Abram Hill through active travel links to the town centre. We're already looking at the rationalisation of the council's own estate in terms of how we can provide better, improved public facilities for the 21st century. I'm sure you're all aware of the council's commitment to the town hub and community hub projects, and that's something which is clearly going to be investigated as part of the transformational change for the town centre. The main reason I wanted to speak to the community board tonight was to basically underline the importance of co-production with the community, and we're seeking to request that, unfortunately, another subgroup is identified to allow myself and my colleagues to engage with members of the community board over the next 6 months. Because realistically, given the local elections, we're not going to have a formal meeting of the community board till probably midsummer, late summer. So rather than basically just progress matters in isolation, we're seeking the board to identify a subgroup which basically we can engage with once we've done an initial mapping exercise to look at opportunities and constraints, and then discuss with the community what type of proposals they want us to advance, and also to indicate priorities. Now, all of these projects and the priorities of them and a development programme are going to be wrapped up in what we're going to call a town action plan. So that'll sit below the vision, and it'll give people the main thing that they wanted. In terms of the feedback from the vision exercise, is that people were saying, oh, this is all pie in the sky, it's all highfalutin, it'll never happen. It was conceptual. We want to move from that conceptual process, which was all very important in terms of getting a buy-in from the major landowners in Cumbernauld in particular. But now we have that buy-in, we need to focus now on translating that into physical projects on the ground, as well as there being a big policy uplift in terms of a focus on town centres. There's also a funding uplift available to councils now for town centre activities. There's the UK Levelling Up Fund, there's the place-based investment programme, there are different resources available through for historic refurbishments, etc., which clearly isn't as much of an issue for Cumbernauld, but will be for the Coatbridges and Airdries and Motherwells of this world. There is a report which explains all this in detail. Apologies for that report not being circulated in advance of the meeting. It will be forwarded tomorrow for those to review what we're proposing, and I'd definitely be open to take detailed questions through email, Chair, in advance. But if anyone has any questions now about the sort of purpose of the town action plans and the role that we see the community board having, then I'm quite happy to answer a couple of questions if there's time. Thank you.
Craig, it might have been useful to have that paper for the board tonight.
It wasn't possible. Sorry, Chair.
Okay. Adam Smith, you want to come in?
Adam, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was talking to myself there. Yeah, thanks for that update, Craig. That was really useful. And I think that what certainly I'm hearing locally is that since the kind of higher level plan came out, people are now at the stage that they're looking for as much detail as you have and as you're able to share. And I know that you're probably not able to share a lot just now, but I think that some interim comms would be useful, just even as a kind of holding response to people to let them know what stage you're at with that. Yeah, just to give people an update on how far negotiations have come. You know, anything you're able to share publicly, I think would be really useful for the local community just now, given the interest in the Cumbernauld Town Centre being redeveloped.
As I'm sure you're aware, Adam and Chair, there's ongoing discussions with the major owners within Cumbernauld Town Centre. These are of a commercially sensitive nature, and we can't reveal too much at this time, other than to say we are progressing these discussions and they have been meaningful. And as I said, they have bought into the vision document for Cumbernauld, and those who are familiar with it will know that we're no longer just tinkering at the edges and trying to upgrade and improve what the council owns, or in terms of public realm improvements, in terms of access or gateways to the town. We're looking at basically significant structural change within the town, and that's really going to be dependent upon securing finance for these investments, because as I say, we can't go alone on this. We need to build partnerships with the landowners, with the major asset holders, and that is at an advanced stage, but as I'm sure you can appreciate, it's commercially sensitive. The report, which unfortunately wasn't been able to be circulated in advance of the meeting, clarifies the function of the town action plans, and that in itself will involve a level of engagement and co-production which we feel is necessary to basically develop and promote a sort of community consensus around the proposals. But in terms of having a suite of projects and timelines for the delivery of those projects, that's just not available at this time, Adam.
Okay, no, thanks, Craig. Just if I can follow up, please, Alec. Just I'm aware that there was a report that went to committee. Don't ask me what committee. About the funding for the 10-year programme throughout North Lanarkshire and where the funding was coming from.
Yes.
And I know that there was a funding application had gone into the Levelling Up Fund, which apparently was rejected. So is there any concern that the funding won't be available to proceed with the planned redevelopment?
You're correct in that the bid to the initial phase of the Levelling Up Fund was not successful. We are effectively regrouping and looking at the other alternative funding mechanisms that would be required to effectively finance such a structural change that is being proposed. As to exactly where that funding is going to come from, Adam, and the amount of pounds, shilling and pence, that's sort of confidential at this moment in time. Obviously, it will involve an announcement once these things are no longer confidential, and I'm sure it's something that the senior management team and chief executive within the council would be very keen to do so, as and when we are capable of doing so. We are not going to be sitting on our hands, especially with regard to Cumbernauld. While there are 8 towns in North Lanarkshire, we only have the staff resources to look at 3 initial town action plans, and that's going to be Cumbernauld, Motherwell and Wishaw. And the reason why we're looking at Cumbernauld, Motherwell and Wishaw is because we're reasonably well advanced with the due diligence that is required to deliver the scope of the visions that are already in the public domain. So we're moving forward with confidence, but we can't go to full disclosure at this time.
Councillor
Any other
Barton?
questions?
Thanks, Alec. Thanks, Craig. I think as elected members, we've got a wee bit more insight onto some of the projects that are going, but not an awful lot, because obviously of the sensitivities. I think it's important, especially for Cumbernauld, that the town centre, the main town centre, affects everybody, but there's also the Abenhill Shopping Centre, and I think it's really important at the community board level that isn't forgotten. Now, I know it's not forgotten, but I think it definitely, when yourself and other officers are coming forward, that there's mention of the Abenhill Shopping Centre, because especially for the people of Abenhill, they feel at times that it is forgotten, and it's just to reiterate that, yeah, there's discussions, there's this, but it hasn't been forgotten. It's not, or it is on the radar.
For the benefit of the wider board, Abenhill is definitely on our radar. Colleagues in the education services are looking at the hub proposal on the former secondary school site, and how that hub perhaps can basically deliver the level of public service that is expected by the Abram Hill community in the years to come. Now, as Councillor Barclay knows, the issue with the existing shopping centre is the number of private ownerships within that. And once again, we're well aware of the complexity of that issue, and there are officers of the council that are tasked with looking into that and trying to promote a solution which is acceptable to all. Basically, complexity is what our job's all about. If things were simple, then we wouldn't need as many meetings, and we could just go straight to delivery as quickly as we can. Yes, I take your point, Councillor, and that's why we haven't called it a town centre action plan. It's a town action plan. So hopefully we'll be able to include in that document a sort of like an understanding as to what is generally happening within each town, and not just within the town centre, but clearly our focus in terms of available central government and UK government funding at this moment in time is our town centres, not our district centres or our neighbourhood centres. That's not to say that we don't have an interest in them and we don't keep an overview and a careful eye on them. We do, but we have to put our limited resources towards those areas where we think we can achieve the best outcome or the smartest outcome in terms of the available funding to us.
Thanks very much, Craig. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Raymond Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. If I can first of all speak personally, Craig, we chatted after you made the presentation last year. Just to make the point again, in the final vision, it'd be good to see if Cumbernauld heritage, both its kind of medieval heritage and its more modern heritage from the 1950s and 60s, could be highlighted. That's my kind of personal view, but my more professional view is speaking from as a council officer now. Is trying to get a handle on the engagement, because I do think that approach is the correct one in terms of engaging the community. But it's trying to do it in such a way that it focuses on health improvement and public health, and how the new landscape can, promote healthy living, walking, and we've talked about cycling earlier on, that type of thing. So do you see that? Would you be consulting with the health service out with this, or would you see this forum being the main forum?
We're consulting with the health service already on a number of issues relating to our towns. It shouldn't surprise anyone that we're looking to have dialogue, and quite detailed dialogue, with the NHS about the central health centre, which we all know is of an age where it's probably not got much of a lifespan in it. The last time it had any major reconstruction was when they put the pointy roof on it back in the 80s. I've been working in Cumbernauld since 1992, so I've seen it go through its various iterations, etc. We're talking with all our partners at this time. Some partners, all the partners have signed up to the ambition growth for the council, and basically things are going to be moving quite quickly in some areas, but at different rates in others. There's a clear demand, and there's a clear need for improved facilities within Cumbernauld, and as the council's largest town, as I say, it's at the forefront of our thinking. So yes, when we do come to look in detail at physical projects, they have to be sustainable in the long term. So therefore they have to comply with the low carbon agenda. Low carbon isn't just in terms of the physical fabric and operating costs of these buildings. It's about how accessible they are to non-private car use. But there are certain things that we can directly influence, and there's things that we have to respond to in as imaginative way as possible, in terms of, for example, North Lanarkshire alone isn't going to solve the public transport issue and the vagaries of the bus services, but working with our colleagues in COSLA, etc., we can make and try and petition for improvements, and obviously our role in that would be to look at how we can improve, maybe provide a bus station, etc., within Cumbernauld Town Centre that can basically allow people to make that choice to move from their private vehicle to a modern and efficient public transport service. So that's where we can look at our influence, but once again, it all comes to partnership with external agencies, but more importantly, as you said, Mr. Taylor, with the community itself, because that's who we're doing this for. We're not doing it just to keep ourselves employed. It's about getting outcomes that are going to be welcomed and going to be embraced by the community, because the sums of money that we're looking at, they're going to be there for a significant period of time.
Okay, thanks so much. Thank you, Craig.
Right, conscious of the time, and we have to move on. We have an agenda. I'm going to take Councillor Goldie and then Mary from Cornerstone. Councillor Goldie.
Hi, Craig. It's just that I know that
Hello.
this is the town plan, and we've got that's running alongside the plans for the hubs of that, and there's two potential sites for the hubs, and the town centre plan is running alongside that, and the council has its own plans in addition to that. It's just to see, are we working in kind of one town plan, or do we have a plan B and plan C depending on what way the cards fall regarding the town centre and the choice of the hub site?
The best way to answer that, councillor, is to say that when we started this project about looking at how we can redevelop our town centres to make them a better fit for modern communities' needs, I was very reluctant to call it a plan. I come from a planning background, and my view, plans are statutory documents tied to land use. So the local development plan to me is the plan. Anything that sits below that is a corporate policy and proposal. So that's why the town visions were called visions as opposed to plans or master plans. Those visions have now been accepted. The direction of travel has been agreed. What the town action plan is looking to do is basically have a site-specific focus as to what can actually be delivered through those various themes, such as education infrastructure, health infrastructure, open space, improved access and travel, etc. What we want to do is effectively put the flesh on the bones and be site specific so people can have a clear understanding as to, well, what does that mean? It means this, but that might mean that we have to wait 10 years before we can do certain things in certain towns. Other times we might be able to do it in the short term, 5 years. Others might be 15, 20 years down the line. It's not to do with a lack of ambition on the part of the council. It's to do with resources in terms of external funding and internal access to internal funds, but also to do with resources and not just staff, but also land. So there will not be a sort of suite of options in terms of plan A, plan B, plan C. The town action plan itself is basically going to be the place, the document that all the activity within the town across all these different themes will be listed, and there'll be an indication as to when things will be delivered, and more importantly for some people, especially the retailers in Cumbernauld, where that's going to be delivered, because that'll influence their own investment decisions. But I can't express the importance of the fact the visions was never seen as something that the council can exclusively deliver. We have to move forward with partnership in both the private and the public sector.
Mary from Cornerstone.
Thanks, Alex. I just wanted to flag up, number one, Cornerstone House Centre is a community hub at the moment, based right in the centre of the town centre, as you all probably know. I've been managing over the past 5 years £1 million investment from the community fund to develop the centre. They purchased the centre for the community. Over and above that, originally Cornerstone Christian Fellowship had a lease on the building. It is not a church. It is a community-owned asset purchased by the lottery, funded by the Scottish Land Fund, and the community has that asset right in the centre of the town centre at the moment. Now, COVID stopped a bit of the development at a board level because it was purchased in 2019, but prior to that, I had been working with the town centre owners and the Scottish Government to purchase the building. Now, going forward, that asset has to be recognised as a community asset. Councillor Goldie's talking about the 2 sites for a community hub are being looked at. Well, I just want to flag up, you know, there is that community hub there. The original lease, the company that was the town centre owner at the time went into administration. So there is massive history from Cornerstone's point of view of all the legals that we had to get involved in to sort out dealing with the new HAMCAP organisation that own the not the Antonine Centre, the other 2 shopping areas. Cornerstone itself, on a monthly basis, there are over 6,000 visits to the centre. So it's a very busy area. And at this moment, we're obviously having to be well informed about how things are going to go forward with this asset sitting right in the heart of the town centre, that nobody has approached us from anywhere to say anything, because we are in effect an owner in the town centre. It's not just about the investors that are involved in the town centre that I deal with on a daily basis as well.
I fully take your point, Mary, if I can call you that. We are well aware of the benefits Cornerstone have brought. As I say, I've had a relationship with Cumbernauld and the community of Cumbernauld for 30 plus years. So we're well aware of the function and role and the benefits that the Cornerstone give. That is something that we as a council do not take lightly in terms of how it can be protected, accommodated, developed, whatever word you want to choose there. That's something we'd be seeking to work as closely with the Cornerstone as possible. And I recognise that you're not a church per se, but we're going to be talking to the other churches within the town centre about
I mean, the
their
church
needs.
runs out of Cornerstone.
Yes, yeah, but it's not exclusively a church. No, it has a wider role and
I just
a
wanted
wider
to make
asset.
that clear.
Yeah,
Because
no,
obviously the big issue is going to be that investment has to be recognised, I suppose, and you know, this is all on the agenda now from the point of view of all that development that's happened just around that one area. I'm not saying we're exclusive, I'm just saying there'll be legals involved with, and I don't even know if there would be any change as far up as Cornerstone. I don't know what you're, you know, none of us have seen anything that might be.
No, because it's we're not in a position yet that we can go public on those proposals, Mary. But when we do, or in advance of when we do, then clearly all owners will be approached and their views considered and taken on board. And as all I can say at this moment in time is we're well aware of the contribution that Cornerstone and other agencies that are located within the boundary of the town centre currently do. In terms of the any certainty that we can have, we can't be site specific at this time, but the certainty is that we are looking to promote, and this has came from the council in terms of the politicians, but it's also came from the community itself. The community is looking for transformational change. They don't want small tinkering on the edges. They want something that will basically stand the test of time. We need to learn from the mistakes of the past so we don't repeat them again. And there are, you know, we've got a range of different professionals looking at this, from designers to engineers to lawyers, etc. We are actively engaging in this, but in effect, I'm here with one hand behind my back because I can't be as open as I would like to be. But, you know, we're moving forward, and that's as much as I can say at this time, Mary.
Okay, I just, you know, just the experience that we've had, the legals that we had to deal with when the building was being purchased, it took 3 years. And our lawyer put on the record it was the most difficult conveyancing that he'd ever done because of the, well, you'll know, all
Because
the
of ham
stipulations.
caps and transigents, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh dear, I need to watch here. But I just have to report to my trustees that I brought it up at this meeting, obviously because it's a community asset.
Can I point out that I'll take one more question because I have to apologise. I didn't see Councillor Hogg raising his hand because I don't have him on screen. I will take him. And Craig, can we have a briefer reply to his question?
Yes, Chair, sorry.
Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I probably should have been a bit more visible and jumping up and down with my hand there. It's just to make a couple of points in connection with Craig's report. It is pretty much high-level vision, and what we could really do within Cumbernauld, it's not so much a question as a couple of comments. We could do with getting small business networks together, and the reason I say that is because so many of us in the last 2 years were purchasing stuff from Amazon. We could do with a theme of buy local to keep the local jobs, because our local economy is dependent upon the money from people's pockets being paid for goods in our shops. And if we end up pushing too much money towards Amazon, we will destroy our town centres. I'd also like to reiterate a point made by Councillor Barclay earlier about the public image, what we know in the council about plans in Abram Hill, particularly the shopping centre, and the frustrations of the public in Abram Hill. If you walked through the shopping centre in Abram Hill, you would find at the back end, near where the bookies is and where the maltings is, usually 8 or 9 pigeons sitting there. The pigeon droppings, I'm sure if we called in environmental officers, there might be a risk of shutting that place down. So the sooner we can get moving on that, I know the complications of it, the sooner we can get moving on that, the better. Delighted about the hub, and the good news is that the post office, which was closed in the Spa, is being reopened by the post office, and they're going to use, I think it's the side part of the Maltings pub. So the post office is being reinstated. That's been quite an inconvenience since prior to Christmas. That's my contribution, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor.
I don't feel as though I have to respond to that. I recognise the points that have been made by the councillor. In terms, I'll just make one very short, brief response. We're well aware of the need to promote the circular economy and to promote shop local. The council was actually active in securing funding during the initial lockdown periods to promote a shop local message, and we're also supporting the shop local message through the local credit card scheme. So it's something we're well aware of, and colleagues in the business improvement side and are basically actively engaging with retailers and businesses to look at how we can improve that circular economy. But I note all your points, Councillor. Thank you, Chair.
So you're asking us to look at taking a subgroup to look at the vision of the town centre?
Yes, we're basically, I want to work with a sort of manageable amount of people to basically feed information to them, to use that subgroup as a sounding board for issues that we've identified, but also to capture issues that the community is better aware of, and then to have a sort of open discussion around priorities for the community. So that's why we genuinely want to sort of co-produce these action plans rather than they be seen as sort of tablets of stone handed down from high. That's not the way I want to work in terms of advancing this project, and that's the same for each town that we're going to be moving forward with. As I say, they're going to look at 3 town action plans in the next 6 months to 9 months, and then each other town will be addressed thereafter. So Cumbernauld in the first tranche of town action plans, and we hope to basically make it as effective as possible through that engagement. So we're looking for volunteers to identify themselves for a subgroup, and then I'll speak to them about the scope of that activity. The report's going to be circulated by Gary Stark, and if people have specific questions on the report, then please email me and I'll get back to you directly. But thank you for your time this evening, Chair.
Does the board agree that we should in fact have a subgroup for this?
Here, could we get a clarification on who can be on it? Because I know certainly as councillors, we can be involved in planning. We can also be involved in approval of plans or that. Quite happy for a subgroup, but it'd be nice to know who couldn't be part of the subgroup, because we could end up with 2 or 3 bites of the cherry and then disbarred from making a decision at the planning stage.
Well, in that sense, councillor, you should be well aware of the comments you can make on live applications, but this isn't about a decision-making body. Effectively, the community board will be presented with a draft plan for noting, and the decisions about this will always go back through the full council. So we're looking for, you know, a sort of subgroup of interested parties that are aware of the vision and supportive of the vision, because this isn't an opportunity to revisit that vision. That's been approved now. What we want to do is drill down into the detail and actually start to package together some projects which we can achieve funding for and actually get developed on the ground. So there's no barrier as such to membership of the subgroup other than those who are eligible to be in the community board itself. So in that sense, if people can email my boss, David Greer, and put their names forward, then I'll get back to you to look at dates for an initial meeting, and hopefully we can move from this sort of celebrity squares visions on screens to a physical meeting in the not too distant future. But thank you again for your time, Chair.
Okay, Matt, does that fit in with our plans? Is that how we would form a subgroup?
That's fine, Chair. If people just let us know whether it's through David or come through our own team at Community Matters, then we can pass that information on.
I would prefer it coming through Community Matters.
Yeah, the better idea to come
one
through
channel.
Community Matters, and we can pick that up and we'll
And
pass
then
it
we
on.
know exactly what's going on.
I'm happy with that, Chair.
Apologies,
Councillor
Chair.
Hogg, have you still got your hand up, or have you not taken it down? Ah, you've got it down now. Right, folks, we will.
Suzanne McLeod's waving to you.
Oh, sorry, Suzanne.
Hi, yeah, thanks for that. I've been waiting for a wee while there. Whilst I'm not in, one for cutting down people's opportunity to be involved in decision making, etc., what I would probably want to stress is that really, in representing the town board, it should be organisations rather than elected members. And I think the point was made earlier on that actually elected members get many opportunities to contribute to discussions of this nature. And I think this is an opportunity for ordinary members of the community and ordinary members of groups within the community to be involved in this type of discussion. This is a really important piece of work for the town of Cumbernauld, and the more people that can be included in that on a lay basis, the better. So I would probably encourage our elected members to maybe reflect on that and think about whether they want to put themselves forward or not. But I would also want to encourage ordinary members of the public and members of groups to participate. And really, this is an opportunity to get the best that we possibly can for our town. And we all know that it's been a long time coming, and it's an exciting development. So that's just a wee plea from me. Thank you.
Well, I think that it's a fair point, because most of the subgroups are, let's say, devoid of councillors. We don't have councillors in amongst those groups, and that's a good point. And the councillors do get many opportunities to question officers and so on, probably greater access than we have.
Can I just make one last point in response to Susan there, Chair? The subgroup is going to be effectively taking the temperature and picking the brains of those who have knowledge of the town itself. It is not intended that the subgroup replaces formal public engagement and formal public consultation. So it shouldn't be seen as basically a way to get information first. It's basically what we're trying to do is build an understanding as to what people want and explain the complexities around how these things can be delivered, and have an open discussion around programming and delivery and funding. There will always be a formal consultation period built in to the action plan process, and that will give the wider community a chance to comment on the detail of the draft action plan. We will not basically be coming, the subgroup will not in itself be deciding the final shape and form of the action plan. There'll be formal roles for the wider community through the consultation process itself. So we're trying to basically use the people who have the best understanding to, as Susan says, to try and get the best outcome. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Input from Community Learning and Development, David Young.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for your time, Board, tonight, for allowing us to come along and do this quick input. I say quick because I know that it's a really busy agenda this evening, so we will try to keep it as brief as we possibly can. My name's David Young. I work for the Community Learning Development team within the Council, and my colleague Leslie Ingalls is also here, another manager within the CLD team, and you'll hear from Leslie very shortly. She's going to help with the input. We also have one of our colleagues here this evening as well, Lindsay Weir, who many of you will know and has been to previous meetings. So Lindsay's role this evening is to support the members of the Scottish Youth Parliament who are in attendance this evening as well. So hopefully we'll come back and touch on that a wee bit as well. So I think we've got a copy of the slides. I know that they were sent out before the meeting, and I think Colin was going to be able to put them on screen for us. Is that still possible, Colin?
Well, I think I would expect everybody to have read the report, because that report went out with the minutes and the agenda.
Yeah, so hopefully, as I say, it was a presentation that we were hoping to deliver. I think it had gone out, but yeah, we can just certainly go over it. If Colin's got it there, great. If not, I'll just try and skip through some of it. So just for the background for folk who don't know about community learning and development, it's just an approach and a way to work with young people, adults, families and wider communities. Community learning development takes place all across Scotland, so we're not alone in North Lanarkshire that we have community learning and development work going on in this area, certainly. But we do have a strong team, certainly within the council. And particularly in some areas of community learning development that other areas don't. So family learning would be a really good example in North Lanarkshire of where we do a lot of work with families, working with parents and young people together at the same time, whereas maybe in other areas across Scotland they don't do that. But generally, community learning development is there in all 32 local authority areas. But we don't just deliver it as a council service. We have community learning development work going on, as you probably well know, through a whole load of different providers, whether that be across the public sector or indeed the third sector and the voluntary sector as well. So the point I'm trying to get at there is that community learning development generally is a partnership. It's not about one organisation delivering CLD work. It's about an entire partnership coming together to try and deliver that. And I suppose that was the kind of crux of the presentation, just to kind of bring it to folks' attention. Oops, sorry, I think that's Colin sharing that on screen now. Just to bring it to folks' attention that we do have a community learning development partnership in North Lanarkshire for folk who didn't realise that was there. And really we're here just to kind of talk on their behalf this evening, although we're council officers. So that partnership's been running for over 20 years now. We do have some legal framework in behind that partnership. That there is a requirement that was kind of launched in 2013 that CLD partnerships do need to produce plans across Scotland, and those plans need to come out every 3 years. So cutting to the chase, we have just produced a new plan across the partnership. So that plan is for 2021 to 2024, which, as the chair just mentioned, had been sent out along with the papers for this meeting. So hopefully you've had a chance to look through that. I'm not going to talk through that in any great detail, but really just to kind of flag up that the partnership has produced that. Just to give you some examples of work, I know that this board is obviously really focused on the work that's going on in the Cumbernauld area, and we'd be keen to get a bit of a discussion around that. So my colleague Leslie is just going to come in just very briefly, just to give you some examples if you're not sure about some of the work that goes on from ourselves and from our partners.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, just to quickly highlight that within the area, there is as I'm sure you're well aware, community-based youth work happening, as well as our community-based adult learning programme. We also work very closely with our colleagues within schools and our young people within our within our high schools are also offered support, and that includes our Redburn and Glencrine school, that support to the young people, parents and families across that school community. And we're also offering family learning and parental support within the primary and the early years sector. And Gerard very kindly earlier mentioned the award-winning piece of work in partnership with Kildrum and also with CASE, that we were very delighted to receive that award, or to see the group rather receive that award. We also have clearly very good links with lots of community organisations within the area, including Cumbernauld YMCA, obviously the college, we have the Gaelic Choir, and also Living Landscapes. So just very briefly, a quick overview of some of the work that is happening within the area just now.
So the reason we wanted just to mention some of that work locally, just to kind of show the amount of work that goes on through the council CLD team, but also the partnership, is just really to kind of move on to that final slide, which Colin's now put on the screen for us there, just about that community engagement. So based on the fact that we do now have our plan, which is it's a working document, it will change as we go on, and it's quite clear in the plan that that's the case, that there's kind of sub-plans, if you like, within that. We weren't about trying to kind of reinvent the wheel where there was already plans there in terms of the voluntary and community sector, or in terms of youth work. We've obviously tried to use them, but in terms of that plan moving forward, one of the key elements of that is community engagement, and the plan will only work if we make sure that we continue to engage with learners, we continue to engage with those organisations that are providing that learning within communities and providing those skills. And that's what it mentions on that slide there, and kind of giving you some examples of the very last bullet point there, a survey that we've got live at the moment, just asking about usage of some of our computer suites and some of our digital work, just to get a bit of feedback on how people see that going over the next few years. And those who have been involved in the Driving Digital locally subgroup chair, as you are, will be well aware of that. So I suppose our kind of final ask, and really the discussion that we wanted to have, was just about how the Community Learning Development Partnership can best tie in with the Cumbernauld Community Board. We did have a North area Community Learning Development Partnership up until fairly recently, but obviously with the introduction of the board structure, we've now dropped that in favour of working with the board. So now that we have a plan in place, I suppose it's really just to kind of, we can take the presentation down now, but it's really just to throw that back, I suppose, to the board, to see if there's any questions about the partnership, about the plan, but really just to kind of start that conversation almost about how best does the CLD partnership engage with this board, and also vice versa, how does the board engage with the partnership and its member organisations to make sure that we deliver on the priorities for the board. Thanks, Chair.
Before I move to questions, can I compliment you and your staff member for your excellent document? I have read it twice. Some of the statistical information in it is extremely useful. And I noticed the point that you make about the digital, and on the digital group, one of the groups that we have already is up and running, as you'll know. It's very useful to have information like this. Well worth a second read for everybody who's already read it. Any questions for presenters? Nope. Have you any ideas as to how we could progress with CLD, or can we do that offline?
Sorry, Chair, we can certainly continue the conversation offline. We'd be more than happy to have conversations with individuals, or we know that you have subgroups in place, and certainly some of the subgroups that you've got around priorities that I know that you're looking at in terms of youth engagement and community engagement. We'd be more than happy to look at how the CLD partnership fits in with that as we move forward. We're having the same discussion with all the community boards, just to kind of get that across, that we will be kind of taking this forward. So where there's ideas that work well in other town boards, we'll certainly feed that back as well. But yeah, really open to looking at any suggestions. And I know Suzanne, sorry, had her hand up there, so I'll be quiet and let Suzanne come in.
Oh, Suzanne.
Actually, David, you answered some of my questions, so I didn't really feel the need to carry on, but I just wanted to say it was a really good presentation, and I do think that it would be really valuable for certainly some of the subgroups to work with you and your team to see what we can do to support our young people within the area. And one of the things that I was quite interested in, there's a couple of things I'm interested in. One would be about employability and links towards that. And then the second one would be about tackling some of the little pockets of antisocial behaviour that we have seen sprung up over particularly the past couple of summers, but I suspect maybe every summer. And you know, what can we do in a positive frame of mind rather than, you know, just looking at that negatively as well. But I do think that the subgroups might be a good way to take that forward. Thanks.
Okay. Community partnership updates. Matt, you're first in with the local development programme.
Thanks, Chair. This report is just to provide information on the current local development programme for the Cumbernauld area and give update on the status of some of the projects that are in place. The Community Board is just asked to acknowledge the status of some of the projects going forward and that further updates will be given to the Community Board in due course. Happy to take any questions on the report. I think Colin may have some updates, but if not, I might be able to come back in on that. Colin, do you have anything to further update?
Hello, I'm sorry. I hope you can hear me. I'm having a bit of technical issues, it would be fair to say. There was on the report, there was two new items for approval. We've already spoken to Lisa in relation to the Bogs Tank project. The other project was about Cumbernauld community allotments and the potential for some LDP to be utilised towards a new greenhouse, which would have, you know, a fairly extensive greenhouse with kind of brickwork within it. So we're looking for approval for that programme, if that's possible, please. Everybody's kind of happy just to approve that. That would be great.
Any objections to these two being included in the programme?
Well, I think the one for Bogs Tank, we've spoken to Lisa offline, so that's not necessarily going to go forward in that format. But so we've dealt with that in another stage, Chair.
So what is the Bogs Tank project?
But Lisa, do you want to give a couple of minutes?
I'll be very brief. So the Bogs Tank is the small waterway that passes through the bottom of Cumbernauld village. It goes along the Red Blaze, under the Old Glasgow Road, and then along the length of the Jubilee Park. It's now very seriously flooding. The last flood, it breached completely. So not only did it flood Jubilee Park, it started to flood Old Glasgow Road. So we're looking to see if we can get some assistance on this. The Bogs Tank does take a lot of overflow water from surrounding developments. So we'd like some hydrology work done to establish if anything can be done, and also to try and alleviate some of the issues that we've got in the park, because that is our only public park. So we would like to see if we could get something done. It's a much bigger project than that, but if anybody wants to talk about it, I'm happy to speak to them after or later.
All I could add here is that I struggle at times when I look at these projects, because my view is a lot of them are infrastructure projects that the council should be doing directly from their own funds rather than using this limited participatory budget. But that's me. I'm finished with that rant. Councillor Goldie.
Just to put a plea in, if it does go ahead, a lot of the stuff I've been doing is a carbon champion. We've discovered that sphagnum moss actually captures more carbon than trees do. If there's any potential for linking in with the council to see if we can have kind of carbon capture projects within it, it would be fantastic.
Adam Smith.
Yeah, thanks. So two specific points here. One is on a previous local development programme project, we'd got additional car parking into Bolton Road and Cildrum. But I think as part of that, they were supposed to line the spaces and they never did. So I think they were going to go and try and pick that up again to arrange to have the spaces lined at some point, just to see if there's an update there. And about Cumbernauld House Park as well. And Matt, I think we'd had an exchange of emails about that, and we were looking to do some things in Cumbernauld House Park, including new benches and things like that. Thanks.
Matt, would you like to come in?
Sure, can I cover the points that Adam's raised there, Chair? Cumbernauld House Part 1 is a project that's not been looked at through the local development programme. That's part of the Recover NL project, and that's been passed to that team to pick that up, and that's something they're looking at just now. So it's a different funding stream for that one. The project we've got there, we'll certainly take a note of that one and we'll find out what's happened with that piece of work. But I know it's, the contractors are just going around finishing those pieces of work as and when they can. But I'm sure it's on the list, but we'll take a note of that and we'll double check that, Adam, and feedback on that. Just in terms of the project here, the bog stank, the issue with that project in terms of the community board, in terms of the local development programme, is that it was related to, as my understanding of it, was pertaining to a feasibility study to be carried out, and that's revenue funding that would be required for that, and the LDP is capital funding, and therefore that's why there was an issue in terms of that. But it doesn't mean we wouldn't support the work that's ongoing for that. It's just not at this particular stage. It's certainly something I would encourage the board to support going forward, and we would certainly look to support the work that the group's doing in relation to that, and we can also be potentially be a match funder or some seed funding to do other pieces of work as well. So we're happy to work with that, but just in that particular one, that's where the issue arose, is that it's revenue funding versus capital, and we couldn't spend money on a revenue project. So that was just to clarify that point, Chair.
Right, Suzanne.
Yeah, just to say that with these new projects, I think it is really helpful to have a bit more information other than just the descriptors that we get in the paperwork, so that we can get a really clear understanding of what they are. But I think that sounds perfectly reasonable for those proposals. I think we should go ahead and accept.
Does the board agree acceptance? Any abstainers? Anybody against? No. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The LDP is a really important programme in Cumbernauld, so we try and make the best use of it, and everybody's encouraged to participate in that, so thank you.
Okay. Local Outcome Improvement Plan. Gary, that's your area of work, is it not?
It was, Gary. His laptop, I think, has blown up, just like mine one was a minute ago, but I have got the update just here, just to read out to you. So here we go. The initial meeting to discuss options for moving forward on the LOIP groups took place on the 7th of February. There was consideration of the initial tasks and arrangements for meetings going forward. Additional mapping work of other potential organisations has started. An agreement for the community partnership team to arrange the first rounds of subgroups, and these will start week commencing the 14th of March. Can I just thank everybody who participated in the meeting? It was very productive. It was great discussion, and I think it highlights the great relationship that we've got here in Cumbernauld Community Board, and emphasises the teamwork that we're all trying to, for the better good. So thank you for everybody, and certainly we'll be moving forward with the initial LOIP meeting arrangements very shortly.
Right. Any questions for Colin? No. Community Board self-evaluation. That's back to you, Colin.
It is. Now, you might be getting a bit fed up on my voice in a minute, because I've actually got a few things Chair. I know there's 2 there, but there's probably another couple with your indulgence, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to, and I'll be very, very brief with these. But I would just say a lot of these are just for information, for your forward thinking, and there'll be more information coming out and within the range of the topics that I'm about to discuss shortly. So first one is the Community Board self-assessment. So as part of the governance for community planning, it was recommended by Audit Scotland that self-evaluation for local community planning and community empowerment should be undertaken. So the Improvement Service have, due to their developing role, shown an interest in working with the boards around self-evaluation at some point this year, and they could potentially want to start to discuss the process in the coming months and potentially before the summer. So further discussion will take place with the boards as more information becomes available relating to the proposed approach and format of the process. But given the timing of board meetings and the upcoming election period, we wanted to ensure that the boards are aware before any approach by the council or the Improvement Service. So very important piece of work, self-evaluation, how we doing, longer term approach. And I think it's a really good piece of work by that's going to be undertaken by the Improvement Service. Chair, is it okay if I go through all the other ones, and if anybody has any questions, they can ask me then? Would that be okay?
That would be good. Yes.
Are you happy enough with that? Okay. I'm going to go on to the Community Concordat, or we'll call it the Community Agreement. So at the Council's Community Empowerment Committee on the 31st of January, there was approved a proposal for Voluntary Action North Lanarkshire to lead with local community organisations in stakeholder and community engagement with the aim of developing a community concordat or agreement. So the idea is that building on engagement with communities to date through the development of the local outcome improvement plans, there will be a focus on equalities groups and seldom heard voices to inform an agreement between community planning partners and local communities around how we all work together and agree expectations and standards across the partnership to support the delivery of the LOIPs. So building on previous discussion with partners, and there's actually a report on the Council's MARS system relating to this. It provides an overview of the proposed North Lanarkshire approach and is linked to ongoing actions to ensure the development of partnership approaches for the delivery of LOIPs and support the development of community boards. So Voluntary Action North Lanarkshire will work closely with partners and communities to engage, develop and implement this community concordat work in the coming weeks and months. So another very valuable piece of work going to be delivered through our third sector partner, Voluntary Action North Lanarkshire, and we thank them for that. There is a bit about the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations, and I just want to get that. Okay, hang on a second. So I just want to get the right one. Okay. Yeah, all right. Apologies, I'm just looking at 3 screens here. Actually, I'm going to go on to I'll come back to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. I'm going to go on to the Green Space Participatory Budgeting Programme. So this is a very exciting programme, and I'm going to give you some information. And again, this is just to kind of put a marker for future reference. So North Lanarkshire Council are interested in finding out what projects local communities think about that would help nature recover. We intend to spend £50,000 on practical improvements across the North Lanarkshire Council area in 2022-23. So local communities will be invited to suggest the improvements that they would like to see, as I said, in the recovering of nature or nature recovery. This could be general areas for more work like planting wildflowers to help bees thrive, or specific improvements like putting up bird boxes in a wood. All suggestions must relate to land which NLC owns and operates and directly helps nature recover. That's a very important point. So we need to make sure that this funding is on land that NLC own and operates. So the suggestions will be checked out to make sure they are practical by trained ecologists and council staff. Then all the suitable projects will be brought back to you and your community to vote on. Everyone will be encouraged to make their voice heard and decide which improvements they want to see happen in their local area and community. So the winning projects will be delivered by NLC staff, but there are likely to be opportunities for people to volunteer and get involved on the projects and on the ground. When the participatory budgeting exercise is launched next financial year, we would appreciate your help in spreading the word. So as I said, this is just a marker for you for future reference so that we can get the maximum number of people to participate and to hear about this process. If you have any questions in the meantime, please contact greenspace@northland.gov.uk, but I'll put that in the chat bar and put the words in nature recovery in the email subject. But I will send out some of this information was already sent out with the agenda, but tomorrow when I send out the information in relation to the town to Craig's discussion, I will also send information like that. So it gives you a kind of a marker for future reference. And then now if I just go on to the Queen's Jubilee, there we go. So the Queen's Jubilee. The Council is supporting the celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee when she becomes the first British monarch to celebrate a British Jubilee after 70 years service. There are a number of official events that are arranged and others that have been set up to encourage members of the public to participate, and the Council is also planning its own celebrations, of which the detail is still being discussed. A bank holiday weekend of celebrations will take place between the 2nd and the 6th of June 2022. As part of the Council's celebrations, a fund is being set up which will allow community groups and individuals to apply for grants through the Community Partnership Team, and the outcomes of which will be reported to the community boards. So again, for future reference, the detail of this fund is still being arranged, but we wanted to make sure that the community boards were made aware prior to these announcements. So I apologise for all these like 4 areas, Chair, but very important in relation to a whole load of positive outcomes. I will make sure that you've got the email addresses if you want to speak to Greenspace or for any other questions. We will certainly put them, move them forward to the services in which they are, for which some of these initiatives are being delivered. But I'm happy if there's any kind of quick questions to answer. I'm happy to kind of take any of them just now.
Nobody's coming up on the screen.
That's fine. I can send out, people will have more chance, if I send out the information, you'll have more time to read the information, because I appreciate I went through it pretty quickly. But really good opportunities here. I will send the information out and make sure that you know who to contact as and when. So thank you. Thanks
for that, Colin. Right, our community planning partners have been very patient. Can I ask Chris Burns from the Fire and Rescue Service to comment on his report?
Thank you. So I've submitted the report for everybody to see, but I'll just cover some of the activities I note in the area. Our unwanted fire alarm signals. We are actively working towards our UFAS demand reductions and encouraging our crews and enforcement staff to engage pensions whilst in attendance at incidents. We continue to work closely with the schools, industry and residential homes, along with our ongoing commitment to reducing attendances at local hospitals. Deliberate fire setting, we've seen a positive decrease in deliberate fire setting across the whole of North Lanarkshire. Community action teams and station personnel continued to work in partnership during the reporting period to raise awareness regarding deliberate fire setting and antisocial behaviour and the impact this has on the wider community. Distributed associated literature, chain, padlocks, and attempt to reduce these figures further. We've also identified fly tipping locations across North Lanarkshire and we encourage our crews to report these. Bonfire night, we also recorded a positive reduction in bonfire related incidents against 2020-21. says that this had been through pre-planning for this year's events, but unfortunately we reported one incident within Torbrex Road, Cumbernauld, where the attending crew were faced with an act of violence whilst extinguishing a bonfire. We reported that 3 firefighters suffered injuries, with one requiring hospital treatment after being struck by an object, resulting in swelling to the hand and wrist. Fortunately, we recorded one facility in this reporting period, fatality, in this reporting period. Crews from Cumbernauld Fire Station attended a car fire in Craig Albert Way on the 7th of November, which sadly resulted in the loss of life to the occupant of the car. Our community engagement activities, that quarter there, we continued to adopt our community COVID safety measures, allowing us to carry out home fire safety visits to those most at risk. We've also been promoting and carrying out our virtual school presentations. This has allowed us to deliver fire skills presentations safely to young people. We also, our fire breach facility at Coatbridge is being adapted to ensure compliance with current DDA requirements, and this has allowed the building to be properly accessed, egressed and fully used by members of the community. We have reviewed the course content to utilise wider delivery, covering more citizenship inputs in the VR headsets to raise road safety awareness. We've also included visitations to our Safer Home facility, our national headquarters in Cambuslang. Initial contact's been made with local schools and the level of interest has been awesome. Happy to answer any questions on the report.
Questions for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service? Councillor Barclay? Yes?
Thanks, Chair. It's just more a comment and a thank you. I think you spoke about bonfire night, and I think this year was an absolute perfect storm, and it's thanks to yourselves and Police Scotland. It was a night where we had the gas main breach, and there was the potential for residents having to be evacuated. The amount of gas that was in the air, and it also happened to be trying to stop people from setting up bonfires and setting off fireworks when there was so much gas in the air. So really, it was the perfect storm this year, and it's just to say thank you very much for really what you had to go through on that particular night. And it wasn't helped that it was also part of COP26. So for Police Scotland and yourselves, there was staff had been in Glasgow trying to deal with that at the same time. So just thank you.
Thank you.
No more questions for Chris. Inspector Ray from Police Scotland, you've been very patient.
Thank you, Chair. I actually have a presentation to provide tonight, and if I can ask Colin just to place it on screen, that would be great. I'm not very technically minded. In relation to my sort of turns, I will circulate via obviously kind of Colin and Gary a written briefing, if that's okay, and I'll just kind of run through this presentation just now, given the kind of time pressures, if that's okay.
Yeah, we're all right.
Okay, so for me, obviously, I'd kind of like to kind of provide this short presentation just regards to Operation Moto X, which is a joint initiative in partnership with North Lanarkshire Council and Police, and it involves the purchase of 2 off-road motorcycles and the use of these by police officers to target antisocial behaviour related to calls connected to the use of off-road bikes and quad bikes. So due to the success of Operation Moto X, we hope to gain the support of board members to extend the operation and submit a funding request through Marty's team for the purchase of 4 further quad bikes. So the operation commenced in July 2021, and this was in response to a rise that we had seen in antisocial behaviour incidents connected to the use of off-road bikes, and also following several incidents which resulted in the loss of life and serious injury to members of the public. So the aim of the operation was to address the risk posed to the public and also to tackle offenders. Colin, could you please skip on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So as part of Moto X, officers were trained in the use of the off-road bikes that we managed to secure funding for and purchase, and they were given dedicated time to patrol known hotspot areas and to provide reassurance as well as education to offenders and address linked incidents such as youth disorder. So North Lanarkshire Council alongside Police Scotland want to carry out meaningful engagement with our communities to better understand the needs of people looking for direction on how to use these bikes legally and also to target offenders robustly. So this approach requires community boards to be at the heart of Moto X as the project continues. Colin, could you skip forward a few slides, please? And another one. Okay, the one with the blue kind of table, please. The next one, please. Thank you. So some analytical work has been undertaken to show the results of Moto X, and a comparison has been taken from the 6 months prior to the operation being launched and the 6 months during the operation. And the blue kind of box there just shows the kind of comparison results in some of the figures, which have had certainly a significant reduction in our call volume. So certainly for the kind of Motherwell, Wishaw and Bellshill and Shotts area, during the period January to June 21, which was prior to the Moto X operation being formed and us sort of deploying officers on these bikes, there was 342 incidents associated to antisocial behaviour connected to off-road bikes. And for the 6 months following the operation, that was reduced to 184 incidents. And more relevant to ourselves, for the Northern Corridor, Cumbernauld, Kilsyth and Airdrie and Coatbridge area, those figures were 298 in the 6 months preceding the operation and 128 in the July to December period. So you can see quite a significant reduction. That's a reduction certainly for our area of 57%. In particular, kind of problematic areas for the Cumbernauld area, and we do see sort of regular kind of calls for these areas are the Ward Park area, Ballock, Westfield, particularly kind of around about the retail park up there. And we've also had recent complaints about off-road bikes being used in the Culdrum and Abron Hill area. So something that is quite kind of prominent in our area. So as a result of the targeted work that we've carried out under Operation Moto X, we have seen an overall reduction in antisocial behaviour related incidents involving off-road motorcycles and quad bikes by 51.3%. And that means during the 2021 period, officers made an impact through education and enforcement, which resulted in incidents recorded reducing from 640 to 312, with a total reduction of 328 incidents within that operation period. So at the minute, we have 2 off-road motorcycles, which were shown in the sort of initial slide, the pictures that were there. And these can be used across the north of our division. However, there are limitations to when we're able to use these bikes, particularly during the winter months, just due to officer safety. And what we have noticed is that when we don't deploy officers on the bikes during the winter months, there tends to be a spike in incidents. And the figures of that are below in the sort of the blue table, which I'll let you look at yourself. So what we're proposing through the funding biz is the purchase of quad bikes. And this would provide additional assets across the north of the division, which can be utilised across the north and provide an all year round capability. Also, quad bikes require significantly less training to operate, and more officers can be equipped to use them, which would allow enhanced police response. So we actually have in-house training, and they would be able to sort of support and train officers in the use of these bikes going forward. So that takes me on to our funding proposal. So today we have secured £10,000 of funding from Scotland Loves Local Fund, and that was secured by my predecessor Neil MacLeod. However, to supplement this, a funding proposal is being submitted, and we hope to gain the support from the community boards across the north area for this proposal. And this would see us purchase 4 quad bikes, which is in addition to the 2 off-road bikes that we already have. It would cover equipment and associated running costs that we need to go with those. And this would provide us ultimately within the north the 4 quad bikes and the 2 existing motorcycles to continue to target and robustly target antisocial behaviour in the community within North Lanarkshire. So if funding was supported, the commitment that we as Police Scotland and North Lanarkshire Council will make is that we will continue to support the training of additional officers to use quad bikes. Officers will conduct joint operations with North Lanarkshire Council to appropriately target and will provide reassurance and education to the community. Officers will link in with community boards and North Lanarkshire Council officers to highlight areas of concern for action plans to be created targeting hotspot areas. And this will include looking at problem areas, creating problem profiles and altering the landscape where required. And officers will also continue to engage in partnership actively to detect antisocial behaviour by working alongside our colleagues in housing and antisocial teams. So what we're seeing of the benefits of the Moto X project and what we believe will be, kind of benefits going forward if we secure the additional funding is our increased capability to get to areas quickly where normal police vehicles can't access. We've seen a significant reduction in youth-related antisocial behaviour calls connected to the use of these off-road bikes. We'll also increase our capacity for joint cross-border operations to tackle the use of illegal motorbikes. And actually, so far throughout the project, there has been numerous seizures. Increase our educational campaign to raise awareness of the danger of using these illegal bikes. And in addition, what we've sort of had the benefit of throughout the project or the operation is that bikes have also been utilised to search hard to reach places for missing and vulnerable people and have been a kind of great tool for us to use in these inquiries. So just in summary, we believe that the purchase of the additional 4 quad bikes will increase our operational capacity to tackle incidents of antisocial behaviour and to safeguard the public from the associated risk connected to the use of these vehicles. And that's the presentation. Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions if there is any.
I would just kick off with I guess I'm a bit naive about this. This is police equipment that should be provided by the government, not by the community holding out a collection tin. This is equipment that you either need or you don't need. And if so, my opinion is quite straightforward, that should be provided by the government to give you these facilities. The question I have is, are you going to get additional officers to ride around on these things? Or are you going to take officers from your usual complement?
Thank you for your point, Chair. No, there would be the funding bid is for the quad bikes and the equipment to go with them. Our officers, particularly in the local community policing teams, will be the officers who will be utilised to be trained in the use of these bikes. And these officers will be officers that will be deployed in the local area and they're taking ownership of issues in their local ward areas.
Okay. Councillor Goldie?
I think Suzanne was before me, Chair.
I don't have Suzanne on screen. I've lost her.
I'm
Suzanne.
here. I'm here, thanks, Chair. Yeah, that's very interesting, but can you tell me specifically how much funding you're looking to secure from us, and in particular from this particular community board, where the vehicles would be kept, where they would be deployed from, will they be used in the Cumbernauld area? And also, can you give us a breakdown of the stats that you gave earlier on for the Northern Corridor, Cumbernauld, Airdrie, Coatbridge? Can you give us that in a bit more detail in relation to Cumbernauld, please?
Thank you. Certainly, just going back to the start figure, because obviously I unfortunately don't have that specifically for Cumbernauld or broken down into areas. However, my colleague who kind of prepped this presentation, I'll certainly kind of go back to him. I'm sure that he kind of has the figures and I can certainly kind of cascade them out through the group, if that's okay. I can get back to you on that. In relation to where the vehicles will be stored, so the vehicles would be for use across the north side of our division. At the minute, the 2 off-road motorbikes are stored over in the Bells Hill area. However, they are able to be used across the north. Certainly for the kind of Cumbernauld point of view, we do have garage facilities here, which some of the other offices don't necessarily have. So the suggestion would be that the new equipment would be kind of shared across the sort of complement of offices that we have, so it's a kind of equal spread across the north and able to be utilised, kind of shared out across the sort of north side of the division. And sorry, what was your other point?
It's about how much you're specifically requesting. You've told us how much you've got, but not how much you're requesting.
Yes, so there's at the minute we have obviously the kind of £10,000 currently, and the additional suggestion is to make that up to £40,000, so £30,000 in total, I believe, is the sort of total figure which includes obviously the purchase of the bikes and the equipment and associated running costs, etc.
Is that just for this town board, or is that across a number of town boards?
No, so my colleagues, I have three kind of counterparts. One community inspector covers Coatbridge and Airdrie, the other one kind of covers Bells Hill and Motherwell area, and the fourth covers Wishaw and Shotts, and all four community inspectors are presenting to their own localised boards for support, obviously, for the initiative. So it's kind of a spread across all boards in the north.
So yeah, I'm not clear. Does that mean then that you're asking us for 10,000?
No, as I say, it's obviously we have three boards within our kind of local area here, so I'll kind of present to those three boards, and the logistics and the sort of finances will obviously be kind of worked out via Matt and his team for kind of allocation of funds, is my understanding.
Okay, Matt, maybe you can help out with that, because I'm not really following it.
If I can come in there. In terms of the proposal, if we were looking to support the proposal, if we're looking at £30,000 to support that, that would be across the 9 community board areas, and that would be applied in the same way as we apply the funding into the boards. The same ratio would be applied to funding coming out of the board. So the boards would be a pro rata payment from each of the 9 boards to support that. So in terms of £30,000, it wouldn't be a huge amount of money coming out of Cumbernauld for that purpose, and it would be shared by all the 9 boards in relation to that. But it would be a pro rata payment based on population and the SIND figures that we used for funding to come in. It would be the same, it would apply for funding to come out. So that would be the proposal to do that.
Adam Smith.
I think Billy was first.
Councillor Goldie.
Cheers, Adam. Listen to Alex's point there with interest. Given the fact that we have the Ravenswood Nature Reserve, we have the Luggy Bank Water Nature Reserve, we've got Palace Rig, we've got all other kind of areas where there's people using for leisure, and there's potential for wildlife crime, which we've reported at some points, and obviously areas for fly tipping, graffiti and whatever. Would you also see that these quad bikes would be a useful tool in identifying these areas and helping out with those other crimes rather than just the motorcycle crimes? That just might give the board a bit more comfort. There's probably environmental issues as well as the motorcycle crimes.
Yes, absolutely, councillor. Certainly, you know, obviously the kind of ward officers, we do have vehicles allocated here within Cumbernauld Community Police. Not all the community officers across the sort of division do have that, that kind of luxury, I suppose. But vehicles are always, I suppose, kind of in short supply. So yes, absolutely, these vehicles could be utilised, particularly for areas, kind of expansive areas, you know, that would take us a long time to sort of kind of walk through. And it would become much more efficient to actually utilise these vehicles to respond to incidents and calls within these areas. And that's what we've actually kind of found. As I say, we've obviously kind of utilised the bikes previously, particularly in relation to calls concerning kind of vulnerable people, missing people. So they have been utilised to our advantage previously for these. So yes, it wouldn't just purely be, you know, for the kind of tackling the antisocial behaviour that goes along with the use of the bikes, but they could be utilised for, again, kind of accessing difficult areas, you know, as you say, the kind of environmental issues, reassurance patrols in particular areas, that type of thing as well.
Adam.
Yes, thank you. Now, given that as a chair of Cumbernauld Community Council, and Cumbernauld is one of the areas affected by this, I mean, we quite often hear these bikes passing by on the footpath as well, causing a general nuisance. I would welcome this, but just in terms of my understanding, Matt, so is this, I mean, given that the community board doesn't generally have a budget that is a local development programme, so is this then coming out of the local development programme funding, and is it anything left from this financial year, or is it next financial year we're looking at? Thanks.
The proposal, it would be a local development programme that would support this across the 9 community boards, and it really depends on funding available in terms of the budget this year, or budget early into next year. It would depend on what's available once we get to year end as to how we would support that. But as I say, in terms of the ratio, probably we're talking, maybe £2,000 or £3,000 in relation to coming from Cumbernauld on that basis. From that, I think it's something, in terms of the budget itself, it's something that's manageable within the LDP budget to support that. But what year it comes in, I couldn't say exactly just now, but it's certainly something we would report back to a future board. In general, it was taken to the Community Empowerment Committee about partnership funding, and the Community Empowerment Committee has supported, in general, funding partnership initiatives, not just with the police, but other initiatives, including Voluntary Action North Lanarkshire, Scottish Fire and Rescue, etc., NHS Lanarkshire, and other community planning partners. So there's other things that we have been involved in. So there is general support for partnership funding, but I would certainly feed back further detail on that as time goes on.
Anybody else? Nope. I can't get my head around having 4 quad bikes over this vast area, having them in the right place at the right time. I struggle with it all. Anyway, not for me. That's my personal opinion, and I don't want to go further. What does the board think?
Sorry, just on that point, certainly that is part of. We have analysts who work alongside us within sort of our Lanarkshire division. We have them at our disposal, and part of their role is actually kind of identifying hotspot areas. So they will kind of review call demand, they'll review crime recording incidents, and they can kind of chart and plot for us where there are significant incidents and sort of those peak incidents at certain given times or days, etc. And we certainly rely heavily on our analysts to actually kind of chart these things for us so that we can actually deploy resources to the right places and at the right times, and that's certainly what they've done throughout this project, and that's something that we would continue to do if successful for the funding.
Okay. Does the board agree to this agreement? Yes? Anybody against? Everybody says yes. Right. Duly approved. Gabby, meet us from Health Improvement. You're up next.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Apologies, firstly, for submission of my report just yesterday. We are very short of staff, and I'm working alone in our locality just now. And yeah, I submitted a report, and it will be shared after today, or maybe it was already shared. Quite extensive report of really everything what we are involved in across localities. And only I won't read it. I don't know. I don't want to read it all. Please read the report, and if you have any question, please come back to me directly. I have a very good partnership with most of you from the board, and people knows me, and they can anytime contact me if they have any questions. I just wanted to only maybe talk about one thing or two. Some projects in the report you will see when you read it are really open to partnership. We can't do these projects alone, and especially our community engagement or promotion on like some programs like Stop Smoking or screening programs, which is very important with some of our communities to promote these projects. And we are very keen to open the discussion and working closely with communities, because we need to get into people, get into communities very closely with some health promotion information, and that it can improve health and reduce inequalities. Our work is not only with communities, we are working quite widely with health and social care partnership staff when we promote training to improve services, their services, that they can improve their service with their patients. And this is quite important that you know how extended is our work across the communities. Also, we will be sharing in a very short future training opportunities, trauma-informed trainings, resilience and hope workshops, which will be shared with community boards, and I would really welcome and encourage our partners and community members to take part in some of these trainings. But all these trainings and details will follow through my email. If you are not on our mailing list, please send me your email address and I will add you, because we are sharing lots of health and promotion information and trainings opportunities. And also sometimes we are getting information from our partners, which we are sharing. These three things really were very important for me to share with you, to stress that we need you as a community to our success, to reduce inequalities and improve community health. And also, if you would like to take part in any future trainings or engaging with us, you are very welcome. And LOIP's work, which we will be involved in subgroups, of course, it's only part of our work. It's not only our work, because we are doing many other things as well across the locality. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. But as I said, I would welcome any emails really with, if you need any future report. Some of these projects have a separate reports prepared by us or our partners, and I can share it with you as well. But these reports are quite extensive on projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabriella. Any questions for Gabriella? Councillor Goldie?
Hey Gabby, it's just to see the street soccer kind of diversion work of that. Is that likely to start up again?
Yes, really, we don't know yet about when. Every block when we are getting the street soccer, it depends. Sometimes it's in Moody's Burn. We share the street soccer. We share with Crisaith, and we share with Northern Corridor and Cumbernauld. It depends, and I will be asking our partners in a separate email to for really which locality they think, like police and fire, our fire and rescue colleagues, and our community learning development team, we together decide about which what area will be the street soccer run. But I don't know that yet, unfortunately. This block, what we currently have, is Motherwell and Bells Hill and Wishaw, I think. But it will be back, I am sure. But I can't say which locality it will be.
I'd just like to put an early plea in for Carbrain, because there's some antisocial issues going on around Carbrain, particularly maybe on Friday afternoons or whatever, or Friday evenings. And I would put, I'm biased as a councillor, including that area, but I would put a plea in for Carbrain.
Thank you. Thank you.
Leslie Weir, I see you. Lindsay Weir, rather, I see your hand up.
Yeah, it was just to jump in there to say that the next kind of 10-week block of street soccer, as Gabby said, is being allocated, and unfortunately Carbrain isn't. But what we did do after the last block that was in Carbrain, the young people who'd attended it have now been directed in. We have a North Lanarkshire Challenge group that meets in Cumbernauld Academy on a Tuesday night. So all the young people who had went along to street soccer have kind of been directed into there and into our Saturday night projects as well, and at the Trice. So that's kind of, it was just to say that although it was there, we haven't left them high and dry. We've kind of directed them into other things. In the Cumbernauld Academy group, there's a new group started specifically for them, focusing a wee bit on a bit of accreditation, so they can use the street soccer that they've done as the physical section. So it's kind of trying to direct them into that.
Yes, I can add to that because I just read a recent report on Saturday's sports scene, and in last year, in between April and September, this is the last report. Probably we'll get another one in April. In Cumbernauld Trice, we had nearly 1,200 young people took part in a Saturday sports scene. 1,200, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nobody else with questions. Can we move on? Is Raymond Taylor still with us?
No, he needed to drop off, as I know, because I think he texted something and he put something on a chat.
All right.
He's leaving.
Adam, you were going to say something about the Monklands Hospital replacement.
Yeah, thanks. So as the Cumbernauld Community Board representative on the Monklands Engagement Forum, I'm just going to give a brief update on where we are with that. So on the 4th of February, a proposal of application notice was submitted to the Council as the first step in the planning process for the new Monklands Hospital, which is going to be at Western Moffat and is currently planned to open around 2028. So there's work underway on that, and like I say, the proposal of application notice is now submitted ahead of a fuller planning application later in the year. But next month there's going to be a virtual public consultation event, and that's going to be available for people to look at and to give their views and get more information about the project. So once that goes live, we can make sure information is circulated to the community board and they can participate in that. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Right, folks. Camel Tomzak from Van El. Are you there? Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Have you got something for us, an update?
There is no many updates except our new lottery, which you may find out actually from our website. I would actually ask you to go and get all the details. It's quite a lot. We're looking for new organizations to join in, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So probably this is what I would like to share with you today.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, folks, we slightly later than I anticipated would happen, but I'm new at this game, so let's just see what happens going forward. Any other business? Mary from Cornerstone. You're on mute, Mary. You're on mute.
How's that?
That's better.
Suzanne, I don't know, were we meant to say something about the meeting last night? Is Gary there? Hello?
No, I don't think Gary's with us at the moment.
I think Gary's laptop died.
Right.
Yeah, Colin.
Hi,
Who is
Chair. No,
there?
I'm here now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Yep,
It's
so,
on this participatory budgeting.
yep, so,
Meeting we
It's
had
not
last
on the
night.
agenda, Alex, so I don't know quite.
No, it's not on the agenda.
so
But
just
I
very quickly, Mary, we had a meeting yesterday
Yeah.
and we agreed that we'd give very short feedback, and I think Suzanne's
Yeah.
going to do that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm not quite sure what we're meant to do.
Yeah.
But it is- right.
Okay, so the subgroup on participatory budgeting met last night. That was myself, Alex, Mary, and we had representation from Billy, but he couldn't be with us. And effectively, we've started to look at some principles around where we think we would want to be working, and we hope to be coming back to a future meeting with some proposals as to what our plans would be. But just to let you know that the discussions have started already. Gary, I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to add to that.
No, that's, as I said, we had a very good, productive discussion. We certainly looked at participatory budgeting processes being used to enhance the local development programme, and we agreed to consider and expand our thinking and spend a bit more time to tease out some of the ideas that we've got. And like you've said, we will certainly be coming back in due course with an updated proposal.
Okay. Thanks for that. Emma, you want to come in?
Hello, for anybody that doesn't already know me, I'm Emma Prack. I'm one of the members of Scottish Youth Parliament for Cumbernauld and Kilsyth, so I represent young people's views across Cumbernauld and Kilsyth. It was just a really quick one. I'm currently running a consultation on bus service travel within the Cumbernauld and Kilsyth area, so if you could all share that with your groups. The easiest way to find it is if you search up my name on Twitter, you'll see it sort of in my stream of tweets. It's a quick survey, only about 5 minutes, and it's just to find out what you think about the services within Cumbernauld and Kilsyth in terms of the bus travel.
Okay. Mary, is your hand still up?
Yeah, just one more wee thing. I've just a bit of information. Today I just completed on a new project that's picking up on the original community hub that we had in the Antonine Centre. That COVID kind of things have changed since COVID happened. And there was a bit of movement in the Antonine with people going into smaller units, and we were in a big unit. So the community hub's going to open up again for some partnership working about doing something when you're out shopping that gives you a bit of activity. Any community group that wants to work with us on having the hub for a day to do promotion or to raise awareness of anything, and that includes any of the board members. I'll be happy to discuss that with anybody that's interested enough to contact me. But it's about raising the profile of a community and looking at reaching out and being right in the heart of the shopping precinct, and the Antonine Centre are working in partnership with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other business? End of story. Thank you for your attendance and indeed your participation. And I'm sorry we went over time, but we got a good go at it. And I think we did the meeting justice. So for the rest of the night, enjoy yourself, and I'll see you soon again.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.